So, Jenny, here are the questions that adults asked in the Facebook group. Here's a statement. This one says that newly diagnosed adults are often treated as type 2s for a while. Then we get tested and learn why nothing ever quite worked. I think a lot of should be more widely known about. So if you're diagnosed as an adult, I mean, fair is fair. What I hear from most people is, and it's wrong, but doctors look at them, and if they look like they're reasonably in shape and fit, they think they have type 1. And if they look like they're not, they think they have type 2. And it's very common to be stuck into a category without anybody.
Correct. Yeah. And that's what you just said is also in an environment with doctors who really are thinking type 1, thin, normal size, looks, like they maybe are an athlete or something like that. I'll actually say, I've got a number of people that I've worked with over the years that are athletes. Like I've worked with a couple endurance athletes who were initially misdiagnosed in the emergency department as type 2 and sent home with completely a lack of information and a prescription for oral meds that were not going to do anything for them.
Yeah. Yeah. You'd be surprised how many people I've spoken to who are dismissed at their diagnosis. Because even the very next statement here in our questions is, when I was first diagnosed as an adult, I couldn't get in to see an endo for a while because I wasn't quote unquote critical and I wasn't hospitalized for DKA. And one of their first questions was, how do you even know I'm a type 1? And, nobody does antibody testing right away for you. And this person says, I just wish I would have known to ask for a C-peptide test when this was starting. It is not uncommon at all. Handful of metformin, get home, take these, come see us in a month, let us know how you're doing, except you don't have type 2 diabetes. You have type 1 diabetes, and that's not going to help you. So, and then you are in a real, you're at a risk then, a significant risk. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that the issue there too is adults, we are very misinformed when it comes to our education system. And we really are in terms of many health conditions, but diabetes included. There's still a lot of really good misinformation out there about diabetes. And so as adults, if you have all these symptoms and you have no knowledge of diabetes, no personal history from family member or friend or anything, you may go to the doctor just because you don't feel very good eventually. And then you get diagnosed where you're told you're type 2 diabetes. Well, maybe you don't even know there's type 1 diabetes, or you don't even know that you should ask to say, well, gosh, this doesn't seem to be what I would fit into for a diagnosis. I think teaching is important.
Yeah, it's important to know that you can be thin and lean and healthy and have type 1 or type 2 diabetes.
Correct.
Right. And there's just so many in here. Like, I was diagnosed a month ago at age 55, a week after my birthday. How was that possible? No one in my family has this. I was 50. My first question was, this person's, obviously shocked. And then the next thing I want to get to, which I think is super important, is, and I won't read the whole thing, but diagnosed at 47 years old, full-time job, fast-paced lifestyle, and they can't get started, really. They don't know anybody that has diabetes. They're busy. They get up, they go to work. They're counting. People end up being hopeful, right? Like, this person probably lived their whole life. You get sick, someone gives you medication, you take 2 a day for 7 days, you feel better, that's that.
Right.
What you expect when this happens. And then when that's not the case, they say, look, it's almost 5 years later. I still struggle with my basal, with my pre-bolus times. This person doesn't know what they're doing. And so...
And I think a big thing of it goes a little further than not necessarily knowing what they're doing. One, I've found definitely that adults diagnosed with type 1 and absolutely with type 2 too are very poorly educated from the beginning in terms of what to do. But along with that is they've already had a life and a schedule and a structure to that life. Adding in something that they haven't been given the right information many times from the get-go And now they have to disrupt a lot to learn how to fit this in to what their schedule was.
Yeah.
Whereas kids they're different. I'm not saying that it's not difficult, but it's different because who's helping the child?
Right. Because when you're diagnosed as an adult, it's on you.
It's on you.
And when when a child's diagnosed, some person, I mean, hopefully, right, a caregiver basically stops the rest of their life to figure this thing out, because the diabetes is really a newborn baby all of a sudden.
Correct.
It can't help itself. You don't know what you're doing yet, and it's a very slow process and a scary process, and a process where you feel like you're about to drop the baby every 5 seconds, and so you just sit on the sofa. But it's funny to piggyback onto what you just said. In the next question, somebody said that they got a ton of information in their education at the hospital, but none of it's happening in their real life. Yeah. So they felt like they left completely prepared,
which is great to hear. Yay for whoever educated you.
Yeah. And then there you go. You show up at home and there's nothing there. The person actually said, I had to start listening to the podcast and reading posts in the Facebook group, but that they still feel out of control.
Yes.
Please do a show for older diagnosed people. Different issues like work pressure, schedules, exercise cycles, evening events, et cetera, all these things. And it's very true. I mean, Jenny, like if my daughter runs on a schedule, I can run her blood sugar like it's nothing. But if you start throwing in a bunch of different problems, and variables like this, adult issues, it changes. And go ahead. Say what you're going to say. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say you're absolutely right. Adult issues are your own to manage to begin with. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, there are a good number of people who have a very supportive significant other, spouse, or a really good friend that, gives them some support or help. I think not everybody has this option, but I've had a couple of people who've actually, after diagnosis, they actually decided to do the best they could for themselves to really get an idea. They took 1 or 2 weeks off of work, and they said, I'm going to really nail understanding this as much as I can. And then I'm going to add this other variable back into the picture. I'm going to add work back. Now I'm going to add exercise back. But there are a lot of adults who don't have that option. Sure. You don't have the time you can take off. So you have to do diabetes along with what was already in your life. Mm-hmm. And it adds a layer. I mean, I can say as somebody who'd had diabetes a long time before I had kids, adding kids into the picture has added a layer to my management that is very different than I did before. Yeah.
I saw a woman walk out of an elevator yesterday with a Libre on her arm, and she was lugging a baby and had a 4-year-old behind her. And I thought, oh, that's different than just walking off the elevator.
It is.
It really is. So there's this next person said, this is very interesting because I brought it up in the honeymoon episode for newly diagnosed, but this person says, I thought I was doomed. I was in denial, and I spent days researching articles about potential cures, supplements to prevent disease progression and everything. So they fell down a rabbit hole. Then they said they went into a depression, hopelessness, and on top of all that, blood sugars all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me keep reading. I kept calling my doctor when numbers didn't make sense, and they repeatedly told me it's okay if you're 180 to 200 for a few hours after you eat. You're not damaging yourself unless this occurs for long term.
Right. But how do you stop it now? Like if it's occurring and it's damaging long term, well, then tell me what I should do so I can stop it from happening long term.
Yeah. Doesn't it feel like doesn't it feel like they're like, you could do a little meth. You'll be all right. Yeah, right. But that leads to a meth problem, right? And it really is the same thing. Like I'm sorry, it's such an odd. If anybody has a meth problem, I'm so sorry. But it's just like that's how it seems to me. It's just like
absolutely.
Hey, it's okay. Don't worry about it. But it's okay. Don't worry about it. We have so many episodes where people say, listen, they told me it was okay if I was up to 180, and then one day it was 190, and I thought, well, that's only 10 more than 180. And then 200 was only 20 more. And then 250 was only 50 more than 200. And I was okay with 200. And before you know it, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And it's not, and it doesn't help you in this moment when here you are in your house, hopeless, alone, feeling depressed. unable to manage diabetes. I think I'll tell you, Jenny, I don't know if I would have said this 5 years ago, but having that Facebook page really teaches me, like, you have to go find other people, because for a little while you need to know that other people live with this and they do a good job, because that
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope it's incredibly important. And I'm not saying you got to go to some like type 1 retreat with people or something like that. I mean, if you want to, you can, but just knowing it, I interviewed a girl this morning. Let's see if I can tell this really quickly. Last year, I interviewed a girl from Canada who was allergic to insulin. She figured it out. A doctor in Texas heard the podcast. She had a patient who was going through something similar. The doctor called me. I put the doctor in touch with the person from Canada. Conversations went back and forth. Long story short, the girl in Texas started using Afrezza, and she's doing much better now.
Yeah.
During the conversation that I just had with her, the girl from Texas, which is in the podcast somewhere, like, go find it. I think it's called Allergic to Insulin Part 3.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
That's my alert that I should have turned off for going to pick my child up from the bus stop, which is not my job this afternoon.
That kid can wait, Jenny. We're making a podcast, okay?
He can wait.
Just tell him to stand there a little longer. He'll be fine. But in the course of interviewing this girl from Texas, the mother spoke about how this is such a rare thing, but that she found a Facebook group with 7 people in it who are allergic to insulin, and it was everything to her.
Yeah.
Everything to find those other people, right? And I just think that it's not, for some people, it is not going to be intuitive to go look for other strangers and find comfort in them. But I am telling you, I've been doing this a long time, and not nearly as long as Jenny has been. And it's incredibly important.
No, I would 100% agree with that. I would include, for adults specifically too, don't be afraid to reach out for some type of mental health support too. There's a lot that you have to navigate, and it really helps to have somebody to even maybe help you get some structure or an idea of how to restructure things. As an adult, as you said, from a touch point, I did not have diabetes friends really until I was an adult. I didn't.
Yeah.
I had the people that I got to work with on a clinical basis. But I really didn't have anybody I connected with until I went to a diabetes like athletic training camp.
Right. And you met people there.
And I met people. It was like diabetes Disney World to me. Everybody was beeping and buzzing and complaining about blood sugars and how are you going to adjust before the 5-mile run we're going to go on. I mean, I smiled the whole time that I was there because it was exciting to connect.
And as crazy as this might sound, I know this is a weird statement, but for you personally, if everyone in the world had type 1 diabetes, that would be better for you. Right?
I mean, the whole world would just it would just understand.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be well, I'm going to bring that special dessert for you because you have diabetes, kind of like the weird comments that you end up getting, right? No, just you don't understand. So sometimes that is even off-putting for you as an adult to try to explain to somebody because there's so much missing that you can't explain in just 5 minutes of why you could actually eat the regular dessert if you wanted to.
Bother.
You just don't bother.
And then you're by yourself. Yeah.
And then you're by yourself.
Right.
And
listen, I only have the context of a parent, but I can tell you that when your child's diagnosed, you have no recourse. You're not, I'm not dropping her in a basket and leaving her at a fire station. She's my kid. I'm going to figure this out. Right.
She's not Moses. You're not going to let her go down the stream with her basket.
I didn't, I'm not very religious, Jenny, so I don't know that whole thing, but it did pop into my head about, should I say I didn't float her down a stream, but I couldn't remember the whole parable. Anyway, it slowly you understand it, and you give yourself over to it. It's a life change as much as you won't want it to be at first. And you may do a really good job of giving diabetes a lower impact on your life, but it's going to have one. And the only thing I can say is, when you get a bad cold and for 3 days, the world understands you're going to lay down, you're going to be sick and nobody's going to hear from you. And you find a way to make that time. You do that when you're the parent of a child. You go, okay, well, as an example, we had just renovated a portion of our home when Arden was diagnosed. We'd done it and we had it broken into 2 phases. For 5 years, while I learned about diabetes, my children had to jump out the front door because I didn't have steps. And that is one of the things.
Great.
Yes, that is one of the things I put on the back burner while we were figuring out diabetes for Arden. But when you're going to be an adult and this is going to happen to you, there's no one there. I mean, maybe you'll have a spouse if you're lucky, right? But you'll be surprised at how many adults I see who try not to share their diabetes with spouses, which is a personal decision, So you're going to have to say to yourself, I got to look at this 24-hour clock, at this 7-day calendar, at this 30-day month, and find some time in here to just learn about this and find a way to incorporate it. Because unlike a bad cold, it's not going away, but it will get, if I had something hopeful to say, I would say that diabetes doesn't get easy, but sometimes you get so good at it that it can feel easy some days. And those days sometimes grow into weeks where you just go, this was all right, You're going to have to make that time in your life. You can't just put your head down and run through it because it's not going to work that way.
And you can start, from an adult perspective of a major change to your structure or your day schedule. Even if you just start with a basic of, okay, I've been given this medicine called insulin, and I was told to take it here and here. If that's where you start, then that's it.
Yeah.
Just take what you were told to take. And then moving on, you can kind of build on that, especially if you've got technology. I would say that's another big one that adults should definitely ask about. I know parents are definitely the ones to beat down, knock down, camp outside the doctor's office until they get the products and the technology that they want. Mm-hmm. Adults do the same thing.
Yeah.
Ask for a CGM right away on diagnosis, ask for a pump, and or start the discussion sooner than later, depending on, what you think you can handle.
Yeah. To use a phrase from the podcast or something else, you should dictate the pace. Don't let a doctor say, hey, we'll look at it in 3 months. Be like, no, let's do it now. I want to get an insulin pump. Let's start that right now. I don't want to talk about it 3 months from now. The other thing is too, we tell people all the time, you might get a clunker of a doctor. Don't suffer with it if that happens. Right. And it's, I have a note here to myself that children get treated better than adults do in medical situations. And it's because in my mind, it's a business. And if I see you treating my kid poorly, I don't want to come back here. So everyone's very nice and accommodating. It's how kids get treated. Adults do not get treated that way. And by the way, if your husband's a doctor or your wife's a doctor or you're a nurse, even if you're like, an OB nurse and know nothing about diabetes, your doctor's going to assume you know all about it.
Yes.
And not tell you anything because you're going to think, oh, they're a nurse. They know. And we know that's not true too. So.
In fact, in hiring my own endos, in over the past years as an adult on my own, I think since I've been in the profession of diabetes education, I've had more doctors who seem almost standoffish, kind of scared to suggest and or talk about things. I'm usually the one to bring up the questions or, hey, look at this. I'm thinking about this. What do you think about this? And I don't want that. I'm paying you to help me. I don't want you just so you can write my prescriptions for me.
Jenny,
I still need help.
I'm just a guy with a podcast, and every once in a while I get that. I get the like, well, what do you think? I'm like, you saw what I think. Like, it's the best I can do. What do you think? You know, I'd love to hear what you think. Let's collaborate a little bit. It's not undoable.
No.
And I'd want to finish this up by saying that I have interviewed dozens of people diagnosed in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, and their 60s, and they're doing well. It's so possible to do. I mean, listen, I'm biased. I'd find Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes, the private Facebook group, and just lurk around and watch people talk. You can learn a lot that way. If you have a question, great. If not, just sit back and watch. And the Pro Tip series from the podcast, it begins at episode 210 with an episode called Newly Diagnosed or Starting Over. I think if you listen to the Pro Tip series that Jenny and I put together, it's absolutely free. I think you could get your A1C into the sixes pretty comfortably. So, and if you need any help, find me and ask, and I will absolutely ask. And if you're really, really lost, Jenny works at a place called Integrated Diabetes, and it's at integrateddiabetes.com. So you could.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I was actually going to bring in the fact that you've got a really wonderful list of endocrinologists. And I think there are even some diabetes educators within the list on the website, on your website, right?
Juiceboxdocs.com.
Docs.com.
Yeah.
There you go.
DOCS. It's a list that's curated by the people who listen to the podcast, who say that my doctor's cool with how I manage through, what I've heard on the podcast, and so other people can find them.
And you have some pretty good connections in a good majority of the states and bigger cities around.
The list is getting bigger and bigger. It's not worth your time to go check it out. You might find something near you for sure.
Yep.
Okay. All right, Jenny. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you.
Real quick. When'd you get a dog?
Oh, we've had a dog a long time.
How would I know? I thought you have cats.
Oh, well, we have a zoo. We have 2 kids. We've got a chocolate lab who's like 85 pounds. We've got 2 fish. We got 2 cats.
I'm still recording, by the way, but I did not know you had a dog.
Oh, yes. We've got more hair like floating around.
That dog barked, and I went, what the hell is Jenny dog sitting? I've never heard a dog bark in all the time I've talked to you.
I know usually, in fact, I've heard your dogs bark before. And I am surprised that in all the years he has not ever barked.
I swear to you, I thought you were dog sitting when that happened. I was like, that can't be true.
We most often do these more in the morning. And usually if we're getting deliveries, which I expect probably something came and somebody knocked on the door, they usually come in the afternoon. So that could be why today.
You and I almost never do this in the afternoon, actually.
No,
so,
not ever.
This is a big deal. Sorry. Well, it's a holiday weekend, so I hope you have a great time.
Thank you.